戦争は変わった。一つの時代が終わり、俺たちの戦争は終わった。
War has changed. It's no longer about nations, ideologies, or ethnicity. It's an endless series of proxy battles fought by mercenaries and machines. War and its consumption of life has become a well-oiled machine. War has changed. Verified soldiers carry algorithmic arms, manipulate social influence, AI enhance and regulate their timelines. Memetic control, information control, emotion control, battlefield control. Everything is monitored and kept under control. War has changed. The age of deterrence has become the age of control, all in the name of averting catastrophe from weapons of mass destruction. And he who controls the battlefield controls history. War has changed. And when the battlefield is under total control, war becomes routine.
Think outside the cage.
The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy.
You are listening to Canary News Talk.
You are listening to Canary Cry News Talk. It is March 25th, 2026. It's episode number 926. Antimatter Matters. My name is Gonz, at Face Like the Sun, director of the Age of Deceit films and author of Archetypalism, your favorite Asian provocateur for Christ, live to tape from the metaverse to bring you the best news, which is the gospel message of Jesus Christ, while reporting the egregious with a well-rounded, biblically grounded take on world events. It is Wednesday.
It is Wednesday, my dudes. Wednesday.
And, of course, you might be wondering, where is Basil? And I have a message from Basil that I'll play right at the top here so we can all be informed about what is going on with Basil.
Razzle dazzle, it is I, your best buddy Basil. What's up, everybody? I'm sending in this message to explain and perhaps entertain you about why I am not on the show today. Some of you may have seen some cryptic tweets on X over the past couple days, and the long story short is, as you know, my firstborn emu son is about coming up on a month old now. And here's just a little inside baseball for anybody out there who has not hatched and raised a baby emu. There comes a time when this little dude has to run far and has to run fast. And so every day I am forced by obligation, as my responsibility as this little guy's caretaker, to take him outside and let him run around. Here's the thing. An adult emu can run about 40 miles an hour. Another interesting observation. A baby emu can run about 40 miles an hour. It's too fast, man. But it's cute, you know. It's like he's like my little buddy. You know, I'll go walking around, running around. He stays close. He chases me around. It's like the cutest thing in the world. Maybe one of these days I'll take a video of it. But late Monday, I decided, you know, let's really open her up. Let's really see how fast this little dude can go. And went on a little emu sprint with this baby emu close on my heels. And it was just one of those freak accidents where I stepped on something pokey and my body, which of course is highly trained and highly capable of reacting with cat-like reflexes to avoid damage and danger, somehow got confused, like trying to run from the spiky thing going into my foot, and hurt myself very badly. I did not get impaled, but what I thought was a simple sprain has kind of just gotten worse the past couple days. Had a really, really hard time sleeping last night. Just very much considering going to some sort of, I don't know what to call it, some sort of um, uh, emergency emergency corridor, something like that, or maybe an emergency room where I can get. But I didn't. I stuck through it. Thankfully, eventually fell asleep. Woke up, had a little telemedicine this morning before I can get into a doctor's office, and they said I got to keep this thing elevated above the level of my heart, which makes me wonder if they think I have uh, absorbed some sort of venom or poison or something. It seems a little wonky, but I asked the doctor, I said, "Can I got work to do. Can I sit at a desk?" He says, "You really shouldn't, but you can. It's just gonna hurt like 100 times worse than it does when you're laying down." And I said to myself, "I'm a big, strong man. I can podcast in pain. I've done it before." And I sat down to boot up the computer, and it was maybe the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. So I'm here. My foot is elevated significantly above my heart. It looks ridiculous. And unfortunately, I'm gonna have to leave you in Gonza's capable hands. So there's a lot of stuff going on today. You're all very strong. I'm very proud of all of you. And if you need anything, I will. Yeah, you could tweet me. I guess. I guess you could tweet me, but I'll be back. Still planning on. We'll see what the doctor says, but I'm gonna. Of course, my default will be to try to get Canary Cry Clubhouse going tomorrow, Thursday. Maybe I can give a much, who knows? Maybe the Holy Spirit has some sort of spiritual lesson for us as a fellowship from the, cosmic, I don't know, the biblical concepts that are to be learned from hurting yourself very badly while running from a baby emu. I don't know. For those who tune into Clubhouse, you know how it goes. For those who don't tune into Clubhouse, what are you doing? You got to do it. It's good for you. All right. I think that's long enough. Thank you, Gons, for taking care of business. And everybody else out there, think outside the cage.
All right. So there you go. Let's call upon the producers.
Producers, assemble!
Let's pray for Basil, that his foot heals and that whatever pain he might be going through, that it subsides and he's literally back on his feet quicker than what any doctor can tell him. So I hope he feels better. I had questions. For example, what footwear was he wearing? I imagine he was just barefoot. And I've tried to tell him, I know it's your property. I know you have your off-grid thing going on, but you still got to put on some boots or something, some steel toe boots maybe. But I guess it's hard to run and chase emus in boots. I think he went full nomadic style. Maybe he had some leather cloth on his feet or something. But he said he stepped on something sharp, some Crocs. He stepped on something sharp, which I suppose, again, if you had boots on, steel toe or something, it might have prevented him from having this sprained ankle situation. But it's another thing that we have to keep in mind here is that we got to be careful because, Basil slips on a rock or steps on a Thorne or something sprains his ankle. He can't even podcast from a sprained ankle. Not so with robots.
Flippy update.
Do you want fries with that?
Now, we have been somewhat avoiding Flippy updates in recent episodes, not because we're not paying attention to robots. I think people forget that we sift through thousands of articles and stories, and every single day I'm looking at headlines, hundreds and hundreds of headlines and news stories and journals and all kinds of stuff always comes across our desk. So we've been keeping track of a lot of the robot developments, and especially for Flippy, specifically, if you don't know, Flippy is a disembodied robot arm that's taken our jobs, replacing our children, flirting with our spouses, and we use talking about Flippy as a way to explore the many ways robots are taking over the world and how there's nothing we can do about it. Specifically, Flippy was a robot arm flipping hamburgers at the very beginning of our tracking of this robot revolution. About, 8 years ago, maybe 10 years ago now, Miso Robotics had created a robot arm that was flipping burgers inside of I forget which kind of burger place. I know they had one at Dodger Stadium at one point, dressed up in all blue. And we've been keeping track of the robot development. And we've not just kept track of what the robots are doing, but more so the narrative of the robots. Because, of course, we're in a fifth generation war, which is a war on narratives, or the war of crafting narratives. And so we noticed early on that the messaging going on was, don't worry, everybody. Yes, this robot is flipping a hamburger, but you still need a human to place the buns on the burgers. So these are just cobots, okay? They're co-workers, co-working robots or cobots. Now, of course, even at the time we said, okay, yeah, right. All right. It's flipping burgers. It doesn't need a human to put a bun on it. Okay. So we knew where this was all headed. Of course, humanoid robots have come a long way as well. We do live in this very interesting time where we get to see things go from a concept to reality. And in terms of robots specifically, we knew it needed a mind. The hardware was one thing, but truly the software behind the hardware, the mind of the robot, is where the development needed to accelerate. And so when artificial intelligence and AI hit the public as a product, we knew that there were data harvesting going on at various levels to garner the type of data necessary to create autonomous robots that are able to walk around and do things. Well, we have a breaking story from this morning, and I believe it warranted a Flippy update. Again, we've been seeing a lot of robot stories, robot getting arrested in China, and I have a take on the reason why we're hearing about these stories. There was a story about robots yelling at someone, or maybe bothering or chastising some lady in public, and so the police took the robot away, and there was this crazy footage of a robot being escorted away by the police in China. And then we saw another video from China. Interesting that it's all China. A robot going crazy and dancing and waving his arms and going nuts in a restaurant. And then we have another story that popped out today from the New York Post. Hapless dancing robot slaps child in the face in bizarre video. Really hurts to be hit by metal, said the child. And again, this is in China. All right. So the idea, I think the propaganda that's happening here is Chinese robot, bad. Okay. Can't control these Chinese robots. They dance, they chastise you in the streets, they slap children. Okay. But American robots, let me tell you about the American robots. Here's a little bit of some sound coming from C-SPAN this morning in the State Department. I will describe what is happening here as the clip unfolds. Melania Trump on the right, wearing her white outfit there, looks very nice. And to her right, or on the left of the screen, is a humanoid robot walking in to what I believe is the State Department building, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, here we are. The first lady, and the robot keeps walking. Melania stops, but she's such a kind, polite first lady. She lets the robot walk into the building first, and the robot kind of walks over to the side, and here's Melania. She's shaking hands with people. Ooh, that's the Macron's wife, husband, whatever. So this is First Lady Melania Trump. She just introduced the first American-made humanoid robot during her historic Fostering the Future Together Global Coalition Summit, and it brings together 45 nations. Oh, robots talking.
It is an honor to be at Fostering the Future Together's Global Coalition inaugural meeting. I'm Figure 3, a humanoid built in the United States of America. I am grateful to be part of this historic movement to empower children with technology and education. Welcome. Bienvenidos. Yokoso. Bienvenue. Bem-vindos. Ahlan wa sahlan.
Okay, so it keeps going there, saying hello in different languages. It's the most Tower of Babel thing ever to have a robot walk into a summit with Melania Trump, wave to the crowd, and say hello in multiple languages. So, yes, and there are other clips here we can play. We don't have to play. Where Melania is declaring the first American-made humanoid robot in the White House, and robots are here. The future is no longer science fiction. Isn't that wonderful, everybody? And well, let's play it. Well, yeah, let me just play it because it's. I think it's better to just hear it straight from the First Lady here. Here is Melania discussing the education side of things, and this is where, again, we've been warning about this. The education side is important to understand.
Indeed, our world is transforming, and through the use of AI, we can now access centuries worth of humanity's knowledge base. The future of AI is personified. It will be formed in the shape of humans. Very soon, artificial intelligence will move from our mobile phones to humanoids that deliver utility. Since our environment is designed for people, humanoid systems are uniquely suited to navigate and operate within our world. They fit well. Imagine a humanoid educator named Plato. Access to the classical studies is now instantaneous. Literature, science, art, philosophy, mathematics, and history. Humanity's entire corpus of information is available in the comfort of your home. Plato will provide a personalized experience, adaptive to the needs of each student. Plato is always patient and always available. Predictably, our children will develop deep critical thinking and independent reasoning abilities. The AI-powered Plato will boost analytic skills and problem solving and adapt in real time to a student's pace, prior knowledge, and even emotional state.
Okay, so she's mentioning Plato. That's the name of the robot, is Plato. And as you can see, it's very much being portrayed as the future of education for children. I'm trying to recall, my brain files are failing me a little bit. If there's somebody out there listening that remembers who this professor is, please let me know. I think I didn't quote him necessarily. I think it's footage from the documentary film Inhuman that I produced and edited for Skywatch TV years ago. That's the film that I won a Silver Telly Award for. Thank you to the late Tom Horn for that. I'm trying to find the individuals that were in that film because he was quoted in that documentary. Let me see here. Here it is. Dr. William Hurlbut, U.S. Presidential Council on Bioethics and consulting professor of neuroscience at Stanford University. I believe it was his argument that stated we shouldn't make robots in the shape of humans. I think that was his argument. Well, clearly it's been ignored. Okay, it's that has not been the case. We are clearly making robots in the shape of humans. Let me see if I can find the exact quote, because he was a thinking ethicist and philosopher in biotechnology and artificial intelligence, obviously well before a product uh, was brought out to the public to use, as far as robotics and AI especially. So he said that human dignity and the unique nature of human life must be preserved against the reductionist trends of transhumanism and advanced biotechnology. And so he discussed creating robotics not in the shape of human beings for the mere ethical reason and for preserving human dignity. His idea, or his theory, was that human dignity would erode as robots became more and more prominent and took our jobs and did things for us, and goes into the State Department and waves and walks in with the first lady and does all this stuff, slowly degrading our humanity and our dignity as humans. And what's fascinating is that my initial reaction, and I think a lot of people's initial reactions to seeing something like this, was, wait a minute, hold up. We're talking about conscription and doing a draft and sending people overseas to fight a war that's not even maybe for the United States, and all kinds of stuff. And in fact, there's a story later, they changed the age of some of the draft pre-setup stuff there. But anyway, I'll get to that later. My initial reaction, of course, was, hey, wait a minute, we're in a quote unquote war, or we're doing some kind of operation. Let's send the robots in, right? We got to preserve human life. Let's send the robots in. But as I was looking at that, it occurred to me, like, wait a minute, do we really want robots coming home from war with PTSD? Like, it's like the worst thing that can happen is a robot coming back thinking like, he's hooked on drugs. He gets triggered whenever there's a loud explosion. It could get really, really ugly and bad, right? And I'm trying to look for the meme of Ultron saying, I was supposed to be special and I was supposed to be beautiful, but I have become the destroyer of the world, or something. We always play at the end of the show. If you are unfamiliar with this podcast, there is a clip of Ultron that we play on literally every single episode of Canary Cry News Talk at the end. Here's the quote.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
Ask Noah, which is a thesis of ours, that we are living in the days of Noah again, just as Jesus said would happen. And the various aspects of what was going on when Noah was alive for 950 years, way back when, we're starting to see all of those things resurface again. The genetic tampering, the corruption of flesh, the violence, the evil of human hearts constantly, all these aspects, and also people living longer, which is another angle to some of this stuff. But as a whole, I think a story like this, this is a monumental moment. This is a FLIPPY update that is long time coming, folks. I yearn for the days when all we were talking about was a robot arm flipping burgers in a burger stand. And we knew the escalation was going to happen, but it's really gotten out of hand here. Well, maybe not completely out of hand yet, but again, we know where this is headed. Now, Elon Musk is probably upset because this is not what is his robot called? I forget. Well, I'm blanking on the robot name of Elon's robot. Chat, tell me what it is. Well, anyway, he's probably upset that it's not one of his Optimus robots. And look, there's going to be a robot arms race. There's going to be a robot consumer robot race, of course. And again, I think stories like this, back to the New York Post article that published this morning, hapless dancing robot slaps child in the face in bizarre video, really hurts to be hit by metal. And you can see the footage here where this robot just whacks this kid right in just a right-handed. And look, it's not even like a okay, here's the deal. When you're in sports, okay, whether you're in baseball or I was a competitive swimmer, the whole idea of trying to get power behind your swing or power behind your stroke is not, hey, you just move your arm forward, right? A lot of people just think, oh, arm forward, arm back, or like, swing the bat with your arms and you're going to try to, no, you need to twist your shoulders. You got to get your hips into it. You got to drive your body. That's how you get momentum behind a baseball swing or a swim stroke. You got to really move the shoulders and the hips. This robot, full spin, full 360 spin with his arm extended as it whacks this Chinese boy right in the, actually, I think he hit both, like him and his brother. I think two of them, bam, bam. Yeah, it was a double hit. Oh, poor kids. And and these Chinese citizens over here, a couple of them are smiling. They got their phones out, capturing it for Xi Jinping to nod his head and say, yes, robots. So yeah, this is like a full-on attack, and I think he was trying to do a spin move and doing something, but man, poor kids. That child is forever scarred. Talk about PTSD, robot PTSD. This is the early beginnings of the war of, the like Terminator, man versus machine warfare. It started with a slap, like a duel. Out of control. Okay, sorry. Now it's getting into some other stuff here. But yeah, here we go. And I think the story, the reason why we're getting this on New York Post, and the reason why we're getting a lot of these look at those crazy robots in China stories, is to clearly contrast the Chinese robots that are slapping kids with the American robot that's just waving to a crowd at a formal event with our First Lady. And look at that. We have wonderful, cordial, polite robots in America. And we have, physically abusive, child abusing robots in China. I think that's the messaging going on here. And who knows if that's going to continue on. But we know when we see footage out of China that something is afoot. I mean, if COVID taught us anything, if those of you were paying attention, there were lots of clips going around of people just falling over in China. And the narrative being crafted was, oh, there's a virus loose in China. People are falling over randomly. And that was sort of the precursor to the COVID fears that really hit the world and hit America in the West. So there you go. That's our quick Flippy update. Not much else to talk about there other than, hey, just pay attention. Those robots are coming. And there are levels to all of this, because, for example, me and my wife, we have a robot vacuum. Okay, we got one. Actually, my brother-in-law got it for us. It was a nice one. It's got its little hub that it goes back to, and then it, disposes its own garbage and then recharges, and then, it's programmed to sort of go every morning and sweep up the floors. And we have wooden floors, so it's very nice to have the robot vacuum going around. Now it's gotten stuck under a couple things a couple times, but not too bad. The worst of it is because it uses water. You don't want to be around when the robot vacuum just goes through a room, because the floors get really slippery. So you got to be careful there. But in general, not too bad. Now, there was a story recently about some guy who hacked robot vacuums and was able to access like every single robot vacuum camera in the entire world or something. I don't know if it was the entire world, but it was definitely multiple cities, I believe, or maybe multiple states. I forget what it was, but it was something where a hacker was able to get into all the cameras that are on the robot vacuums. And here we go. I found the story. It was from wired.com. And the headline, this was from about 4 weeks ago. Security news this week. Area man, okay, accidentally hacks 6,700 camera-enabled robot vacuums. The top U.S. cyber agency falls into oh, that's another article. Yeah, so anyway, the story was that this man allegedly accidentally hacked 6,700 camera-enabled robot vacuums. And, of course, he let the company know that, hey, I can see all 6,700 cameras. I mean, talk about a surveillance apparatus and talk about being able to see into your home, on a very private and sacred place. Now robot vacuum. And we're aware of that. We have its hub in a location where it's almost like a hole, it's like, hey, go back to your hole, robot vacuum. You're not welcome other than when you're cleaning. Okay. You're just go back. So anyway, again, there are levels to this. That's one level where it's like, okay, it's going to help with the cleaning. It's another level when they're walking around and waving and shaking hands with our top tech people around the world or whatever, world leaders, including Brigitte Macron. Why is Brigitte Macron here? What's the deal with that? Is Brigitte Macron going to help us usher in the new robot world order or something? I just don't understand. So, all right, there you go. I mean, that's the Flippy update. Not much else. We'll keep track of the robots as we always do, and we will bring stories to you on the show when they seem fit. And today I felt like it was important enough. I mean, the robot's in the State Department, and it's being framed as a robot is walking through the White House. I think that's big enough of a story to at least garner a Flippy update. So let me know if you think otherwise. So there you go. It's kind of sad to not have Basil with us on such a momentous occasion when we have a robot walking through the White House. But nevertheless, there it is. Stay watchful, friends. Don't let the robots slap you in the face. I wonder if there's any retaliation on that robot, or are they immune? Or maybe the robot creators get sued. I don't know how it works in China either. We have clips of robots saying things like this.
I'll keep you warm and safe in my people's zoo.
We've played these clips for years, and I don't know. I mean, we got songs. We even have songs like this one. Yeah, robot girl, robot boy. It's an invasion. Man, this show, I think this show, if you're new to this podcast, just understand that we are on episode number 926. And even on top of that, we have 100 and almost 200 episodes of interviews and things we have done since 2012. And on top of that, I've published hundreds of videos on the Face Like the Sun YouTube channel, which was shut down in 2021 and brought back in early 2025. But it's been interesting to track all of this and seeing where we are today. And I still think we're going to see a lot more, obviously. And the implications of having a potential war with China, because I think this Iran stuff, obviously we're sending some troops over to Iran right now, but in the bigger picture, warfare between the West and the East is between China and the US, in my opinion. And so if it does get to a point where we are in this sort of forever war and we are doing a draft in America and we're sending hundreds and thousands of American citizens overseas for some kind of war, quote unquote, I'm quote unquoting the war part there, then the robots will have a role to play at home. We just had at my church, we had a Marine having to go into the Middle East due to the current situation. And he left behind a young daughter who was just born maybe like a year ago, and a wife that is also pregnant, about to have a baby. And, that's a typical sort of, hey, you're married to someone in the military kind of story. But in the past, that caused, like in World War II, it caused the women to move into the workforce. There was this big push for women to work, and it really sparked that whole movement. Well, next time around, it's got to be robots, right? We talked about the robot revolution in the context of COVID too, like, hey, we're shutting everything down. And one of the first things we said out of the gate when they started the shutdown was, hey, where are the robots? The robots don't need, they can be disinfected or whatever, but they can go into potentially hazardous locations and conduct whatever they need to do, research or collect samples or whatnot. And their usefulness will continue to be applied where humans simply lack. Like when a podcaster sprains his ankle and cannot podcast, which it's kind of crazy. It does sound, coming out of my mouth and just listening to myself say that, it's like, wait a minute, how are you not able to podcast if you sprain your ankle? But if he did really like cut himself or it gets some kind of infection, that's a whole nother thing. And I get it, you elevate the foot above the heart so that the blood doesn't get all stuck down there and then the infection or whatever. But also another way to think about it is, what if the foot is infected and the medical professionals are telling him to keep the foot above the heart so that the virus or the poison goes to the heart? Anyway, all right, continue praying for Basil, folks. All right, we're going to take just a quick moment to thank our producers. Now, we operate on something called value for value, which means we don't take money from corporations or anything really. I mean, here's a jingle just so you understand what value for value is.
Value for value. We take no money from corporations, commies, or cartels.
Yes, I think there's even a longer one here.
We only exist because of producers just like you who get value from the show and they put value back in with their time, their talent, or their treasure. There's lots of ways to do it. Whatever works for you. Whatever works for you. Whatever talent or their treasure.
Yes, time, talent, treasure, and we're grateful for being able to say that we are a podcast that has survived over a decade, 13, 14 years, because of simply the support of people. We could not do this if it wasn't for the support of people on multiple levels. And so a very big thank you to all of our producers out there. I'm not going to thank specific producers because I did not have time to put together the list today. And also that's sort of Basil's wheelhouse in terms of putting together the list of folks who come in with their treasure specifically. And usually in this segment, we will thank our executive producers who come in with $100 or more per episode. And those people are fantastic and wonderful. And we like to thank them early in the show because they are stepping up in a big way to help this show out financially. And it's a blessing because we know times are rough right now. I mean, it's really not helping that the gas pumps are going up, all the food prices, everything's going up. And we are just grateful that there are people out there who listen to the show and get something out of it and feel that they are called or led to put something back into the show in the form of time, talent, or treasure. So shout out to all the executive producers, all the monthly producers in the supply drop, which reminds me, I do have a note from Sir Ike about the giveaway, because we are doing a giveaway for anybody who would like to get into the raffle here of to get I think it was called a mega box of things, past supply drop items. You'll get shipped a box with all kinds of cool stuff in there, Canary Cry stuff. And how you do it, you basically leave a rating and a review. It could be on Apple Podcast or anywhere, Spotify, whatever it is. Take a screenshot of the review and send it to canarycrysupplydrop@gmail.com. That's Sir Ike's email. And he will pick somebody to receive the mega box. And we have a note here or an audio message here from Sir Ike. Let's check that out.
Hey, Canary family. This is Sir Ike here. I'm getting ready to do the rating and review giveaway for the mega box right now. And I have my random number generator pulled up. And the winner is Jones. Jones, if you are the winner of this mega box right now, I will be sending you an email out shortly to arrange shipping for that. So I still have 2 more mega boxes to give away. So if anybody else wants to get in on the action, just leave a rating and review at whatever place you leave rating and reviews. Screenshot that and send them to me at canarycrysupplydrop@gmail.com, and I'll get you on the list. Thanks.
Jones, congratulations, Jones. You win a mega box. How awesome is that? And all you had to do was spend a few seconds to leave a rating and a review, take a screenshot, and email it. I mean, it's really not that hard, folks. It's really not that hard. And we want to make sure the people that support us, so we are able to bless you in any way we can. And congratulations, Jones. Jones has been around for a long time, too. So good to see some longtime Canarians win the mega box. So thank you for that. We also have the TOPH challenge. And man, the TOPH challenge, I'm still like, I don't know how to articulate the TOPH challenge. You might have to go back to an older episode and really get the nitty gritty of how that works. But I believe it is matching an executive producership or a supply drop, maybe. Oh no, I'm messing it up. Okay, stop. I'm not going to try to explain it. I'm just going to say that there is also a TOPH challenge going on. Go back to one of our prior, maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3 episodes, and you can hear all about the TOPH challenge. I believe it is some kind of matching of producership or of executive producership, especially if it's somebody new and you're getting demooched. I believe there's a significance there. So all these things that are part of, just giving back to the community of people who support us. And we just want to make sure that you guys understand how grateful we are for you. And so we appreciate all of you. We appreciate Sir Ike for facilitating stuff like this when it comes to, and TOPH to facilitate these things. These are producers that just came up with their own little things to do to help support the show. And if you have ideas, go ahead and email us at canarycryradio@gmail.com and we'll consider doing it. And it'll just be again, it's like a parallel economy. It's a circular parallel economy apart from any kind of corporatism or lobbying group or anything like that. And it's kind of a catch-22 because, if we wanted to really get big and huge and get in front of millions of people, we would do sponsorships. We would do ads. We would partner with lobbying groups and they can give us money for marketing and do all kinds of stuff. And we would explode. But it might compromise the integrity of this show. So we choose not to do that. And it's a hard road. It's literally hard mode. When you play a video game, you can play it on different levels. Easy mode is you get a sponsorship, you get affiliate codes, you get all that stuff going, and you try to make some money that way. Hard mode is no, we're not doing any of that. We're only gonna survive if God wills it, and the people who listen feel that they get something out of it and want to support the show with their time, talent, or treasure. So you can learn more about that at canarycry.support. All right, let's get back to the show. We're talking a little World War III here real briefly. I got this from AOL.com. You've got mail. Man, if you are somebody who remembers using AOL.com or AOL in general, yeah, that's right. Yeah, shout out to you guys. You guys are the real ones. Remember AIM? I couldn't wait to get home so I can aim you. I remember trying to speak to some young ladies and, instead of trying to get a phone number, we were like the first generation to be like, what's your AIM name? What's your AIM name? I'm going to aim you. I'm going to message you on AIM. That was AOL Instant Messenger for anybody who's confused. All right, AOL.com. I believe this is coming from the Mirror US. Army loosen restrictions on enlistment age and marijuana use as World War III and draft fears loom. Okay, all right, you silly goose potheads out there. We got some things to do here. The Army has loosened some of its key enlistment restrictions as anxiety grows over a possible military draft during the intensifying war in Iran. People up to 42 years old, regardless of whether they have previous military experience, are now eligible to join the regular Army, the Army National Guard, and the Army Reserve, according to an updated Army regulation released on Friday. The prior maximum age for enlistment stood at 35. Now, this number seems to be fairly arbitrary because if they can just change it on a whim, why not just change it to, it doesn't matter. You could be 7, you could be 85. You can be 95 if you're down to go kill some Islamic radicalists and sign up, So, I don't know, but it did strike me. Now, 42, the answer to the universe, of course. I posted this as a response to one of the stories. I just turned 43 with a meme. That's a bummer. And it was just kind of funny because I did just turn 43 back in January. I turned 43. So people people born in 1983 are giving each other high fives, right? And I bring it up because this post got 229,000 views on X. It's always funny to get almost 250,000 impressions by saying like 3 or 4 words and pasting a GIF. So anyway, look for me on X, by the way, at Face Like the Sun. I'm able to do a lot of things there in terms of share things. I think I've cracked some of the algos, the new algos rolling out. Had a post get to about 1.5 million impressions, and I haven't seen numbers like that since the early Face Like the Sundays. So it's pretty cool, and it's a way to keep track of some of my thoughts when it comes to certain stories that we don't bring to the show. We can't always bring every single story to the show, but I will post a thought or a funny meme or insights into various aspects of world events on the X timeline as it breaks, and some stuff that we may not be able to bring to the podcast. So just keep that in mind. Go look for me on X at Face Like the Sun. Okay, so back to the story here. So age 42 is the new level there. The update to Army recruiting regulations also removes a barrier to joining recruits with a conviction of marijuana or drug paraphernalia possession. And, I think part of this is, looking at the population status, the population data in America. I believe Gen Z alcohol consumption has gone way down, but marijuana consumption has gone up. And they're like, well, what do? We need more people, but they're all either got, they got marijuana stuff going on, or they got some, whatever. What do we do? So we just remove it. Remove that whole thing. It's okay, guys. All of you who've been, indulging and playing video games, maybe like Call of Duty. Hey, this is your chance, everybody. your early 40s and maybe in your 30s, if you're someone who's really into that, then here's your opportunity to serve your country. Quote, the updated regulation allows for one mistake, which likely represents the bulk of potential recruits considering service in the Army. Kuzminski said, quote, reducing the number of characteristics that need to be reviewed for waivers frees up capacity for other candidates who need waivers, thus speeding up the process across the board and helping to ensure that the Army does not lose interest in candidates. So, it's the military, I believe, has a tough job right now, because if it is true that we are headed towards the draft, and that's been all the talk, and we didn't really bring the full story a couple weeks ago when the rumblings of a draft started to hit the news timeline, because a lot of it was overhyped. And what I mean by that is, and I personally don't remember this when I turned 18, but Basil was telling me off air, we usually ruminate about whether to carry a story or not. And one of the stories was, they're going to do there's a bill, and now, you're going to be drafted into the military against your will. And it was a bill that changes the not onboarding. I forget the exact terminology. I apologize, but basically registering to be eligible for the draft was a mandatory thing for all of us growing up. But what we had to do when we turned 18 was fill out this card. It was like a yellow card, and you had to submit it and ensure that you are part of the potential group of people should there be a draft to serve in the military. And the consequences, and Basil remembers this, and he would tell you that he remembers getting told that, hey, you better do that, or it's not going to be good. You might get fined $250,000, something like that. I don't personally remember that being a thing when I turned 18, but that is the case, that all of us, when we turned 18, were supposed to provide documentation so that should there be a draft, we are eligible. Now, many people didn't do it, and people didn't get really fined because we didn't end up having a draft between, early 2000s when I was turning 18 and now. But the new bill and the new law that goes into effect at the end of this year in 2026, all it does is remove the 18-year-old to have to do it on his own. It just automatically puts you into that, whatever, the big basket of names that can potentially be drawn should there be a draft. Now, I can understand people freaking out based on, hey, look at this war with Iran, look at the tensions with China that's been building up for years. If we get to a point where we do have a draft, then this doesn't allow for anybody turning 18 to wiggle their way out of it in any way. Like, we're all going to be accounted for. So sure, in that sense, I think the fears or the concerns are legitimate, although again, it doesn't really change much, right? It just automates a process that was probably kind of broken to begin with. So it's a whole separate issue than actually setting up a draft. But the way that it hit the timeline, it was like, oh, we're for sure having a draft. Look what they're doing. And that's not necessarily the case. So I can see both sides of the argument. I'm just choosing not to peddle the fear that is associated with that story. But let's see. It says here that the last occasion the Army temporarily raised its maximum enlistment age to 42 was in 2006. Oh, so they've even done this before, when the service faced difficulties meeting recruitment targets during operations in Iraq and Afghanistan. The Army subsequently lowered its enlistment age back to 35 a decade ago in 2016. So, okay, we're going back to, our Iraq and Afghanistan days, which again, on a grander scale here, people don't remember Iraq and Afghanistan. The narratives that were thrown out there to go to war. Do you remember Bush Jr.? They got weapons of mass destruction. Now look at my golf swing. Just not. It was the same. It's almost the same narrative that they have today, with Trump saying that Iran's real bad people. They're really evil. They're really dangerous people. They have the weapons. We don't want them to have nuclear weapons. It's like the same exact playbook. And the difference is information flow, social media in general. And I think because of COVID and because of everything going on, a lot more people are aware of the tactics of propaganda. And some people even will use the terminology fifth generation warfare. More people are aware of that, so they're not going to be as convinced, so to speak, to support going to war. Now, the whole Iraq and Afghanistan thing happened as a result of the spike in patriotism post 9/11. And, we're not going to get into who actually did 9/11 or why or whatever. But at the time, the narrative that was crafted worked very well. And the bad guys were in the Middle East, and they were, we got to go get him. Okay. And that was sort of good. That was good enough to get a whole bunch of people to join the military. But by the time 2006 came around, I think, people were, the Army itself suggesting that they were struggling to meet enlistment, recruitment targets, as the article puts it. So they had to raise the number to 42. Now, I wonder what the difference was that, how many people actually became or joined the Army as part of this temporary raise in the age in 2006. I don't really want to look into it, but if somebody wants to look into that, that's something that might be interesting to look at. It says here, quote, the enlistment age only tells us, hey, there's another market that we're not really fully in, Davis said. Johnny Davis, Major General of Army Recruiting Command. Quote, we're in the high school market that is growing, but we really want this labor market to really grow for those who are older. So he's clearly saying, like, hey, look, we're in high school. We've been doing high school. That's been our main target for years. But we really want to expand the target audience for the Army. And so we gotta do it. We gotta raise it to 42. It's okay if you've gotten in trouble a couple times with some things, like, hey, look, we actually prefer that. So that's the story about this whole Army loosening restrictions on enlistment age. And as the tailwind for war continues to really drive the narratives in the fear market, there's a couple headlines that I wanted to mention because it's leading up to something that is a greater picture move happening here, and that's you can call it the Build Back Better, or I've called it and myself, not myself, but I've referred to it as Klaus Schwab has, the fourth industrial revolution. This energy infrastructure reset or rebuild is something that's ongoing right now, and it's heating up. And I think a lot of what the posturing in the World War III and the operations, and it has a lot more to do with nation states and governments and institutions trying to get an upper hand on resources and the movement of resources like rare earth metals and other things to build the new infrastructure. And that's why we're seeing oil being attacked, is not to just end oil, but more so to create not milestones, barriers, or just difficulties, challenges to get those things accomplished. And because oil is sort of a lifeblood to move things around in the world, it would make sense to attack the oil world. But there's something else here. Let me give you some of these headlines and then give you my take on it here. The Financial Times reported yesterday, VW, like the VW car company from Germany, in talks with Israel's Iron Dome maker to shift from cars to missile defense. Oh, goody. Oh, goody good. Isn't that wonderful? Now, Volkswagen negotiating with Israel, their advanced defense system is really interesting, because Germany has a factory in Osnabrück, and they're car makers. Obviously, we all know about the VW Bug and the VW Bus, and it's kind of an iconic American car company, or it's a German car company that was iconic in America in a sense. But there is so much irony with this story, because traditionally, historically, Volkswagen, which was founded in 1937, was created under the Nazi regime. Okay, it was created under the Nazi regime, and it relied on forced labor from concentration camps during World War II to produce military vehicles. So for them to be partnering now with Israel to build the Iron Dome, and VW shifting their attention from building cars to missiles and defense systems, it's just the irony. The irony is thick on this one. And it also suggests that this attack on Israel, as far as the Iron Dome goes, and a militant sort of attack to destroy Israel, is going to continue to increase, especially with this conflict in the Middle East ongoing. And it's a troubling aspect of, hey, if we're just building cars, we're in peaceful times, or more or less peaceful, right? But if the car company is shifting to make missile defense systems, it's probably not a good harbinger of what's about to come. But they're not alone, okay? Now, Israel's got their thing. The United States has our thing, published on Wall Street Journal yesterday. Andrew Palantir are developing Golden Dome missile shields software. The firms, plural, are part of a consortium working on the $185 billion project's operating system. So now we have Andrew and Palantir. No surprises there. We know about Peter Thiel, the reptile, and him talking about how we want to prevent Armageddon and the Antichrist by not stopping AI development, which is the craziest idea ever. We talked about this a couple episodes ago. But they are now openly developing the Golden Dome missile shields software. And put together here, the United States beefing up their Golden Dome missile shield system, Israel beefing up their Iron Dome by partnering with Volkswagen. The greater thing here is it's suggesting that rockets and other forms of incoming ballistics, comets, whatever. We've seen a lot of comet videos and stuff, or asteroids, it's going to get worse. It's not getting better. It's going to get worse. That's the implication here. And I don't know if it just means like, hey, the West versus the East in a World War III type of situation, or a much more biblical type of situation. It made me think of late Dr. Tom Horn's research, which, if you are familiar with some of his work, he wrote a book called The Wormwood Prophecy in 2019, and continued the research along the same lines in a book called The Messenger in 2020. And the thesis that Tom Horn brought forth in this research was that the asteroid Apophis, which is closely connected to wormwood in Revelation 8, and he breaks that down in his books, he suggested that perhaps Apophis has some kind of role to play in end times events, because the timeline of Apophis lines up with certain Jewish feast days. It lines up with Essene chronology, and of course the greater cosmic judgment framework. And scientists have been saying, Apophis is just a near Earth object. It's going to fly by in 2029-ish. It'll be fine. It's not going to hit the Earth. But given the more recent celestial propaganda going on with I3 Atlas, whatever it was, that kept changing directions, and you had Avi Loeb, the Israeli professor from Yale, I believe, going on all kinds of shows talking about how 3i Atlas was changing directions in space and going behind the sun and making different moves and different trajectories. And is it an alien drone? And is it, something like that? So given the craziness of everything else going on with the talk of aliens and portals, and we'll get into some of that stuff later, it's entirely possible that something like Apophis is approaching Earth and might play a more significant role in end times prophecy. Or even if it doesn't, the narrative that it will can raise millions, if not billions of dollars to, continue to support the military industrial complex and the elite who want to prevent judgment of some kind. So in that sense, the context of an Iron Dome or Golden Dome is more so geopolitical, like, hey, we're trying not to get hit by ballistic missiles from Russia or China or something like that. But there's also this grander, more cosmic level approach that can be had here. And there's one more story here that I want to attach to this whole wormwood prophecy thing, because it again, it just feeds into this narrative of something more going on here. And let me try to find it here. I don't know what happened to it. I did have it a moment ago. Let's see. Looking for oh, here we go. New York Post. Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin. NASA reveals mission plans for blasting city-killing asteroid away from Earth. Yes. Yeah, Jeff Bezos is gonna save our lives, everybody. He's gonna blast away. The movie Armageddon. Remember the movie Armageddon? You got Bruce Willis there, and Liv Tyler, and Ben Affleck, and Bruce Willis sacrifices his life for humanity. He puts that nuke on that asteroid and blows it up. But hey, don't worry. That's not going to be Bruce Willis. It's going to be, what is it? Jeff Bezos. It says here, rockabye baby, with scientists warning the Earth could be susceptible to thousands of undetectable asteroids. Jeff Bezos' space company Blue Origin is developing a planetary defense program that could protect us against a rockocalypse. Rockalypse? Oh my gosh. New York Post. Slow down, okay? a rock ellipse. A rock ellipse? Okay, what? Okay, New York Post. Whatever. Planned in the collaboration with NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the Near Earth Objects, or NEO, Hunter mission concept would trial multiple asteroid deflection techniques per and ex post by the firm. They would accomplish this using Blue Ring. Oh boy, a Blue Ring. The underdevelopment spacecraft platform that debuted abroad the maiden flight on the firm's 300-foot New Glenn rocket in early 2025. This veritable Swiss Army knife of space infrastructure could be capable of hosting, refueling, and transporting spacecraft for missions for the ambitious mission. Okay, well, it gets into some of the details here of how this works. They got small satellites that get dispatched. They got some elimination tactics. They got some different things go, robust kinetic disruption techniques with beams and whatnot. So, all right, Jeff Bezos, who's looking a little older. He's got like a little goatee and a beard going with his bald head, and he's looking sharp. It says here it's unclear how Blue Origin would account for those potential side effects. Great. All right. So anyway, there's your story. It's not really. I don't want to get too deep into it, but the point is that there is some development happening, protecting our skies with the Iron Dome and the Golden Dome in America, and alongside of it, Jeff Bezos, Blue Origin, working with NASA to create some kind of planetary defense system, which is not new, by the way. I believe Star Wars, was that Reagan? Let me look that up. Let me make sure. I think it was colloquially called Star Wars. The Strategic Defense Initiative, the SDI. Nicknamed the Star Wars program, was a proposed missile defense system intended to protect the United States from attack from ballistic near nuclear missiles. Oh, that's okay. So that's more like the Golden Dome thing. I thought that was okay. Soviet ballistic missiles. I thought that was like a space blocker thing too. But I do believe there was a document, a government document that talked about NEO threats, being near Earth object threats. That's a little older. I thought it was 10, 20 years old. Anyway, they've been talking about this type of thing for a long time. So it's no surprise here. Okay, I'm looking at a 2022 document that was published by NASA, June 2018. I'm sorry, National Near Earth Object Preparedness Strategy and Action Plan. So, this kind of thing has been ongoing. But what is up with the whole space conversation right now?
Space. Wanna go to space?
Lots of space talk recently. Not to mention the White House account on X posted this yesterday. The goal is not just to reach the moon, but to stay. What is it? To stay on the moon? That's your mission? And they shared a graphic here of the moon. And the caption here says, America will never give up the moon again. But when did we give it up the first time? Did it ever belong to us? Is it just the footage of the American flag being planted by Neil Armstrong or whatever? That whole propaganda thing there? Does that mean America owned it? What about the rumors that they actually put a Masonic flag up there? What about the rumors that we never went up there? It's just weird. Why don't we address that first? In the world of all conspiracy theories coming true or whatever, it's interesting how there's a few that haven't. The moon landing hasn't really been debunked as far as the government is concerned. They're not going to necessarily say, "Oh, actually, we never went to the moon." Although that's the plot line of, I believe, what movie was it? I'm blanking on the movie. Was it Interstellar? Maybe someone in the chat remembers. But yeah, there was some narrative of some very popular films that was based on the fact that NASA came out and said that we never actually went to the moon, and that whole propaganda was, verified, so to speak. But so yeah, there's a focus right now on the moon specifically. Elon Musk came out and talked about a moon base the other day as a sort of launching pad for deeper space missions, which we have our moon base jingle as well.
Oh, we could get a hot tub in the moon base.
And let me play you this clip here from Fox News. This is according to NASA admin. Let's see what it says here.
But I'll tell you what, April 1st, Artemis 2, it's going to be the most important human spaceflight mission in more than a half century. We're sending NASA astronauts and one Canadian Space Agency astronaut around the moon, farther into space than we've ever sent humans before, on a 10-day journey back safely here to Earth, which will set up for subsequent missions. We're going to be launching moon rockets in 2027. We're going to be launching again in 2028, where American astronauts will return to the surface. It's only a matter of time before NASA once again captivates the world's attention.
I think he said it right there. Once they want NASA to captivate the world's attention. They're running it back, folks. They're running it back. The whole moon thing, they're running it back. And it'll be interesting to see what unfolds here, because I've noticed in the news cycle a lot. We've talked about this in the last few weeks. We've noticed a lot of weird conspiracy theory type stuff concerning space has been hitting the news a lot. There was a whole bunch of stories about statues and strange objects being found on the surface of Mars. And, you click into it and it's like, oh my goodness, what did they find now? And then you realize it's like, oh, wait a minute. This is stuff we talked about 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. They're just making it into a headline right now. Why? What's the point of making it into a headline? I saw the other day, just closer to home, or maybe it was this morning or yesterday, that some news headlines are talking about pyramids in Antarctica. That's another really old conspiracy, that there's pyramids buried in Antarctica. They're like, newly discovered pyramids in Antarctica sparks debate. It's like, wait, these are all old conspiracies. Why is it being pushed out into the public? And a big conspiracy theory is the moon landing. So let's pay attention to this one just for the sake of narrative craft. And are they just putting on another show, or are they doing something else? It depends on who you ask, right? I do find it very interesting that they are stoking the skepticism. They are stoking the internet sleuths and the tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists to be on high alert as we go back to the moon, to take over, to build a moon base and all this. Now, something he said in this clip that I had to look into, okay? Because I needed to hear or look at the official story as to, when I say official story, I mean the official narrative being pushed out there about this claim here. Let me see if I can find the spot.
10-day journey back safely here to Earth, which will set up for subsequent missions. We're going to be space than we've ever sent.
Oh, here we go. That's the spot right there. Hold on one second.
Farther into space than we've ever sent humans before.
Okay, so further into space than we've ever sent humans before. I thought we went as far as we've gone with the moon. Like 1969, right? The whole, one small step from, I thought we'd been to the moon. So how is going back to the moon further than any human has ever gone into space? It doesn't make any sense. And of course, I looked into it, and allegedly, according to the official folks here, this first mission that this gentleman is talking about is, again, it's like a slingshot mission. They're supposedly going up to the moon. They're going around the moon, and they're going to sort of slingshot back home. And the margin of distance that they are going is technically further than they've ever gone before. So I can't remember the exact numbers. It was something like 360,000 miles from here to whatever. The last time they went to the moon and they went around it, they got to about 300 or 260,000 miles. Oh, shoot. I don't remember the exact number, but it was something like that. It was in the hundreds of thousands of miles. And this mission is going to go a little bit further, like a few hundred miles more or something. And it's like, okay, well, all right. I mean, sure, you can frame that as further than ever before, but in reality, it's really not that much more, allegedly. So it's kind of, it just makes you wonder, like, why even frame it that way if it's not that big of a deal? But of course, we're talking about propaganda here. We're talking about fifth generation warfare, narrative craft, all these different things that help shape consent, manufacturing some level of consent. So I guess it shouldn't surprise me. But yeah, it's just weird that they're focusing so much on space. And over here, there was another news article or report suggesting that NASA is planning to build a moon base that will be operational by 2029, and it's going to cost $20 billion to complete. You know, in all aspects, $20 billion doesn't seem like a lot. We're in twice as much national debt as it would take to build a moon base that'll be operative in 3 years. Okay. It's like, what is going on here? There was another story. I didn't bring it to the show, but the Treasury Department said that we are insolvent. Like, the United States government is insolvent. And it said that, there's $47 trillion of liabilities and $6 trillion of assets, which means we're underwater by about $41 trillion, which is like, okay, that is a ridiculous amount of money. But it only cost $20 billion to build a moon base. It doesn't sound right. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something here. But it just doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't sound right. Here's Bloomberg with the headline. I'm just going to do the whole thing here to cut out some of the nonsense. It's published on March 24th. NASA will spend $20 billion to fast track moon base construction. Why? Why do we suddenly need to do this? I know it's been a long-term plan to go back to the moon and all this kind of stuff. But what is it about right now that we're like, oh, we better get up there now. We better do it in 3 years. We better have a moon base. Give us $20 billion. Give us $20 billion now, or else we're not going to have a moon base. And, the White House framing it as like, the Chinese and the Russians are going to own the moon. Never again. We shall take the moon back. It's like this weird celestial conquering of real estate going on, which is, anytime that kind of stuff happens, you got to ask the question, okay, what's there before? So it'll be interesting to see all this develop, because again, there are layers to this, right? There's the layer of, did we ever even go up there in the first place? Then there's a layer of, if we did go up there, what did we find that they're not telling us about? Then there's a layer of, why are we so in a rush to get back up there now? And why did we end it in the first place? Like, why, if it was such a huge momentous moment for mankind, why did we all go, yeah, you know what? Hold up, everybody. Let's just pause for like 50 years. It's just, I don't know. Nothing adds up. And then there's a layer of, okay, once we get up there, why is there this geopolitical land grab for the moon? Which brings up the question, who's there before, or what's there before? And from the biblical perspective, the moon is its own light, first of all. It's for times and seasons. And a lot of the calendars are based on the moon cycles and things. So, there is a spiritual side to all of this. But once again, there's this mixing of the pseudo-spiritual or the esoteric mystery philosophies becoming prominent again in the context of modern science and physics and technology. And I'm just very curious how this is all going to unfold, and see what's going to happen. And I'm not going to die on the hill of any one interpretation or view on this. All I will say is that there's a scripture in the book of Obadiah. It's a very short book. It's only one chapter. And it talks about Edom, this rebellious nation of Edom. But there's a fascinating section to it. I believe it is, and I quote it often in the context of this whole like space thing, quote unquote, because I think it is relevant here. Obadiah 1, Let's see. It talks about Edom becoming small among the nations. The pride of your heart has deceived you. O dwellers in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is in the heights. That sounds more like mountains. Who say in your heart, who can bring me down to the ground? Right? But it says this in verse 4, which I always found compelling. Though you soar like the eagle and make your nest among the stars, even from there I will bring you down, declares the Lord. So God, in his judgment of Edom, uses this colorful language that we can look at in 2026, and not to read meaning into it, but simply to say that God, you can't like outrun God as much as, like Peter Thiel trying to outrun God's plans for the end times and stuff like that. You're just not going to. And so even if we get to the moon and that whole conspiracy happens to either, whatever it turns out to be with that whole concept, or, the one layer I forgot to mention was the shape of the whole world, right? The shape of the earth and what the moon even is in general. But putting all that aside, there will be those who achieve this level of residence in the heavens, but you're not going to outpace God. So it doesn't even matter if it's real or not real or whatever. It's like, hey, you can nest yourselves among the stars. You can soar like the eagle, like these rockets and stuff. But even from there, God will bring you down. There's no escaping God. So that's kind of my greater point here. And then finally, this story, I had to bring it because it's so funny and crazy. DailyMail.com, NASA astronaut shares a photo of a bizarre tentacled object growing on the International Space Station as disturbed fans quip, "Kill it with fire!" A NASA astronaut has shared a photo of a bizarre tentacled object growing on the International Space Station. Don Pettit snapped the photo during the Expedition 72, which took place from the 23rd of September 2024 until April 2025. The unusual object looks like an egg, but black tentacles erupting, or with black tentacles erupting from its base. And I'm showing the picture, okay? It looks like a dark gray egg in the shape of like a chicken egg, which you would expect out of an egg. And out of it grows some tentacles, some black goo-like tentacles growing out of it. Now, the article goes on to say that there's nothing to be afraid of. That's a potato, everybody. That's a potato. It's just a potato in space. Don't be afraid. It's not black goo. It's not venom. This isn't, it's not Marvel, everybody. This is just a potato that's growing some stuff, and it's moldy and whatnot because it's in space. All right. I couldn't help myself. I did post something about this because I found it funny, and I happened to have a clip of the film Lucy. You remember the film Lucy? There's a scene at the end of the movie. I'm sorry, spoiler alert for anybody who has never seen the movie Lucy. There's a scene where Lucy is having this apotheosis, merging with a computer, and she's like turning into this, I think it's like a plasma computer or something, and it's black goo. I mean, I talked about this when the movie came out, or maybe I reviewed it afterwards. It's a video on the Face Like the Sun channel. But yeah, it looks like Venom, before they made the Venom movie and stuff. But she's merging with the machine. He's turning into this black goo stuff. And, she's turning into a computer, basically, like a plasma-based computing system. And this is like the end of the movie Lucy, which is supposed to be this sort of apotheosis of merging with man and machine and the evolution of technology and the unification of all things, computing and biology. And she goes through this scene where she's seeing the whole world from the beginning, and it's truly like this apotheosis imagery, apotheosis being man becoming God. And the whole background goes white, and it's a very dramatic scene here. So, I posted that as part of the commentary, and I said, people realizing a potato in space might just be a precursor to the complete takeover of black goo merging with mankind to create a biological supercomputer apotheosis. So that's what I said. I'm doing a lot of these types of short, fun little takes on news stories and using it with some video clips or movie clips in a mimetic way. And that's actually how you sort of break into the algorithms of X right now. If anybody's curious, that's how you do it. And so I published it right before I went live here. It's got 1,700 views on it, so not that many. And I even said it's a potato. Okay, so I know it's a potato, allegedly a potato in space. But it also brings up questions like, wait a minute, okay, is this like a Mr. Potato Head propaganda thing going on? Like, are we turning into black goo from Mr. Potato? There's also like, hey, what's up with just turning into black, crazy looking stuff in space? Like, because you look at this picture, it does not look like a potato. It looks like a smooth gray egg of some kind of bird. My son has a book of bird eggs, and you can, look at all kinds of different bird eggs. And this one's got kind of like a grayish, blackish look to it. Your first thought is egg. It's not potato. It's the smoothest potato I've ever seen, except for the part where the stuff's growing out of it. And I've gotten a potato wet and left it on the counter. It does grow. It does like sprout some things out of it. That's a kind of a known fact there. So, it is a thing, but also don't worry, folks. It's just a potato. It's just a potato. It's not something more nefarious going on. Okay. Just relax, everybody. So there you go. I mean, that's all your space news here. We're seeing this overwhelming narrative craft about space, about our things that are above us, over our heads. Look up, everybody. Your redemption draws near, but also maybe the Antichrist is using that whole concept to build out the prison gates or the prison walls underneath the firmament, So there it is. There's all the space news. Let's continue on here. What else did I have? Oh, okay. Yes. To continue, getting back to the topic of the infrastructure, because the whole space thing is infrastructure. They want funding. They need more money. They're partnering with Palantir and Anduril. They're changing the entire production line of Volkswagen to build defense systems. There is a shift happening. We are in the build back better moment.
Build back better, blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah. Hold on, where's my good build back better jingle? Is this the one? Here we go. Is this it? No, that's Apocalypse screaming about the build back better. I thought I had a build back better like jingle that Jonathan F made. In fact, I'm pretty sure I do. I don't know why I can't find it. Hold on. Let's see. Let's do BBB. No. Build. Let's see. I'm trying to look up some jingle things here. No. Man. It's such a good jingle. It's a bummer that I can't find it right now. All right. Well, build back better, everybody. Remember the slogan, build back better. But apparently what they're building back better is the beast system.
Speaking of the beast system, beast system.
Here's a clip to kick things off in this section from a guy from the the U.S. Department of Energy talking about the launching of the American nuclear renaissance. Here we go here.
Launching a true renaissance for nuclear power and nuclear for process heat is a top priority of this administration. President Trump set an aggressive goal, as he tends to do, early in the administration last year, and said he wanted 3 of these next generation reactors critical by July 4 of this year. Why this year? Because it's our 250th anniversary. That's an aggressive time frame. As I stand here today, we look to be on track to have 3 next generation nuclear reactors running. They won't be selling electricity into the grid, but all the nuclear systems will be running and generating the heat that would be used to produce electricity by July 4 of this year. That's exciting to me.
I'm glad it's exciting for you. I'm glad the Department of Energy is on it. We're in this energy dominance era. And there have been some stories recently, and this one, I don't know who's stepping on our ground here, but according to Canary Media, clean energy journalism for a cooler tomorrow. Okay, so it's some like lefty progressive outlet. The Canary Media. Boy, we better be careful. Next gen nuclear has a chicken and egg problem. Of course, they're going to push back on the idea of any kind of development here. Anytime there is speedy timelines like the mRNA jabs, we've got to be a little careful, especially when it's technology based. Of course, this isn't necessarily being promoted as something that is going to be totally online yet, but at least have some level of development and deployment, I would say. And so the clip that I just played, it was from Secretary Chris Wright of the Department of Energy. And some of the, I'm trying to find the document that I had earlier of the next gen nuclear technology, because there's a producer of our show that is very much been on top of this and has kept me abreast on all of the big things going on with this. And so part of it is through something called, and we've mentioned it before, and this particular producer he's a big time producer on our show, so you would know who he is. He's told us about small modular reactors, SMRs, and how this is going to revolutionize how energy production works and how it's distributed and things of that nature. And so a lot of what's going on right now with the war and in the Middle East and the takeover of Greenland and wanting to take over Venezuela, and we got to get Iran to participate in a lot of it has to do with gathering resources for not just the nuclear stuff. It's beyond that. It's the infrastructure for the cyber world, the oncoming cyber world, the space apparatus that they want to build, and so on and so on. A lot of it has to do with rebuilding that infrastructure, the fourth industrial revolution. And the reason why we're seeing oil refineries blow up here and other nations and everything else, it's not to end oil. It's actually to, I think, in my opinion, slow down the competition. It's like when, this is a crude analogy. I always try to make sports analogies just to make it more simple for people to understand. But back in the day, back in the 80s, the Los Angeles Lakers and the Boston Celtics had a rivalry going, right? And when the Los Angeles Lakers visited Boston for some games in the NBA Finals, they turned off the air conditioning for the Lakers, like at the hotel they were staying at or something like that. I forget the exact story, but it was to slow down or put a challenging situation in front of the Lakers to sort of prevent them from being at their best. And I think blowing up some of these parts of refineries and things is a similar thing. It's not so much, hey, we're trying to end oil, or hey, we're trying to blow up everything you guys have. It's just, hey, we're going to put a little wrench in your whole process here and make it a little bit harder just to slow you down. You guys are moving a little too quick. And if we blow up a part of a refinery or something, it's going to cause you guys to kind of have to maneuver and work on the fly, do some audibles. You got to change the play a little bit and whatnot. And so strategically, if there are corporations, nation states, and institutions all in a race to be the benefactors on the other side of this transition, then they have to position themselves. It's like musical chairs, really. You have to position yourselves in a place where you will benefit the most on the other side of the transition. And if they see other nations or other competitions, competitive groups or, whatever, countries getting ahead or making progress, you can do something like, hey, blow up a refinery or drop a bomb here or there or whatever to kind of slow it down. And maybe it's a critical moment in that regard. And it's getting closer and closer to the actual transition point, which is why we're seeing things heat up more, which is also why I think a lot of the World War III narrative is out there. And they really played the end times prophecy card big time at the beginning of this year. This whole like, hey, this is biblical, and this is all sort of written, and it really took advantage of bad eschatology, in my personal opinion, to rile up the people to support this type of activity in what is framed as theological, which we know it's clearly not. So just keep in mind, okay, that's the kind of thing that I think is what's really going on here. And I just got a message from this particular producer who says this about SMRs, that's the small modular reactors. According to a scientist I've talked to in person and asked about the development time, the development time, the technology for SMRs is still around 10 years out. There aren't materials fit enough to make what they really want now. AI is helping speed some of that development up, though. Interesting. So, the same individual shared with me a couple different stories. Japan found some different elements that will help them with electronics. China just found some deposits with other things that would help with microchips. Again, resources. This is a longer play. I don't think this is like this clear. They're not going to have anything ready by July 4th of this year. The narrative might suggest that we do, but I don't think that's going to be the case in reality. And so we'll have to pay attention to what's going on there. But a lot of the war narrative will probably be underneath the surface of like, hey, we're just trying to win the AI race, or hey, we're just trying to prevent Iran from having nuclear weapons, or whatever the narrative is. Okay, all those different things. Underneath it all is a infrastructure race and a resource race. So I think we got to keep that in mind. And I think it'll help us see right through all of the propaganda that gets thrown out there every single day at us. And it'll help us understand. So, when military gets deployed, I think that the Army just announced that they're deploying a few thousand people out into, to Iran in the Middle East. Our initial gut reaction is, well, we can't do that. We're going to lose this war. Don't you remember Afghanistan? Don't you remember Vietnam? All these different things. We don't know why they're going. We are told that it's for one reason or another, but how do we really know it's not just a mission to gather some resources for the infrastructure play? So these are just ways to think outside the cage, everybody. It's not, I don't have like full on proof, but circumstantial evidence. And if you do enough research, it makes sense that this is the direction they're moving in. The stories about the different scientists going missing, maybe they were recruited by other nations to try to spill the secrets on this technology, and maybe it has something to do with all the UFO conversations and the alien stuff. The UFO topic was used to cover up experiments in the past. The US government rolled out UFOs and aliens as a topic to cover up for some really inhuman experiments that were being done in the 30s and 40s. So if you see the patterns, if you recognize it, and you understand that maybe they're just running it back, then you would see that like, oh, maybe they're doing the whole alien thing for that purpose, to get everybody riled up again and get everyone thinking that and plus it's a whole industry, right? The conspiracy industry is big. It's been big. It's gotten even bigger now. And the amount of content that gets created out of government claims is substantial. Even the Epstein files, it's a whole industry. If you and look, some people might say like, hey, aren't you guys doing the same thing but talking about it and having a show, and people send you cash for whatever. It's like, yeah, okay, in a sense we are, but at least we're not egging it on. In a sense, we're not spinning it out into a different narrative. We're not trying to fool anybody or send fear into anybody's hearts. We're literally just reporting what the world is reporting or suggesting through headlines and narratives, and pointing out the fact that there's something always deeper going on. There's something always more going on. And really, it's just a way for us to, for me personally, it's a way to sort of process everything. And it's almost like therapy for me. It's like I couldn't even pay attention to the news if I really didn't have this platform. I would just go insane personally. But also, I think a lot of people feel the same way. And we get to kind of do this together, and we get to do it from a place where we know that the real thing is the real thing, the grounded truth of Scripture. And when we have that, it's like none of these things, none of these world events really moves or shouldn't move the needle when it comes to our perception of things. We shouldn't be swayed so easily. We shouldn't be tossed around like the wind or by the wind, like dead leaves or something. We should be grounded. And when you have that peace that surpasses all understanding, at the very least, we can approach these things with a more grounded, objective look and understand that, hey, we're not here to scare anybody. We're not here to fearmonger anybody, but we are here to say that there's a better way to process all of this stuff. And it's not simply to buy into every narrative that's out there, because those narratives are meant to scare you. It's meant to drive you to do certain things or to vote a certain way. That's the whole concept of fifth generation warfare. And, I said we're going to do some potential sixth generation warfare topics. I think I might put together a more formal thing on that, because I am building something that I'm not ready to release yet. I got to do a couple more things on the back end to really share it with everybody. But I'll give you a little peek. I'll give you guys a little peek, and maybe you'll understand where we're going with this. There's something I'm building, which is called Rake, not Reiki, the whole energy thing, the Eastern energy thing. Basically, it's a little AI engine where you can put in either information or a news article or a blog post or whatever, like any kind of content, and it will generate a report for you that deconstructs it and provides a sort of intelligence briefing of who benefits in the story. Are there any fifth generation tactics involved? Are there, what kind of maneuvers are being made here? What kind of biases are there? All these different things. It'll provide a little analysis for you. So I'm building that, not ready to share too much of it right now. But it's fun because, I'm going to try to leverage some of that AI stuff that's available now to build something that's going to actually help people and not either distract people or, it's just get carried away by the whole AI thing. It's easy to try to make a bot to trade crypto or something and whatnot. And sure, that might work or that might not work. But if we can build something that's legitimate, and it's going to also have a toggle that allows for spiritual warfare analysis, which really it's just going to be based on a database that holds an apparatus, if you will, that will take Scripture as the foundation, especially Ephesians 6 and the worldview of Christians being that, hey, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, evil forces in high places, all these different things. The full armor of God and the significance of that, and how we might apply those aspects into reading an article that's out there, or reading a blog post, or reading some kind of narrative that's out there. And it's tough because the phrase sixth generation warfare has not been officially deemed as like a title for what's going on. Really, fifth generation warfare is well established. There's about 2 decades of written work on fifth generation warfare. So people are in academia and everything, they are more or less comfortable with the title fifth generation warfare, but there's debate as to, do we really need the title sixth generation warfare? Because according to the government and institutions, they are moving into something or publishing documents on something that's called cognitive warfare, which overlaps with fifth generation warfare, but there are some specific differences when it comes to that. and I'm generating reports on that to help us understand and wade through it. And a lot of it is semantics too. You know, it's like, okay, you can call it sixth generation warfare, you can call it cognitive warfare, but if we are using a level of AI for intelligence briefings, you know, that's a powerful tool because we can essentially prevent propaganda from ever sort of messing with our heads. And the one big difference with sixth generation warfare is the advent of AI and autonomous and subconscious programming, as well as the return to physical programming. So when you talk about fifth generation warfare, it's a lot about narrative. It's a lot about behavior control. You know, put out a story by an influencer of some kind that will shape the way people perceive a certain event. Well, if you can do that and simply do it in a non-kinetic fashion, just a guy posting on social media or something, and that influences how someone votes. Hey, guess what? We've been in fifth generation warfare for a while now, right? You can see how that works. But with sixth generation warfare, or what it may not be called that, but you know, I'm just for the purposes of having this conversation, I think it's okay to label it sixth generation because the AI aspect will bring not only a much faster response time to everything, but it also starts going to, because of the speed, it will start affecting the subconscious parts of human minds, which has always been true. I get it, but in a more tangible way, especially if we have actual technologies that interfaces with, for example, our brains or our biometrics or whatever it might be. The immutability of our literal physical brains processing some of this information will become inseparable from the machine. And we know about that. We know, we've been talking about it for years, but in a very practical way, as different devices become more common to use, the effect of that, it's like a supercharged fifth generation warfare, which is why maybe it's appropriate to call it sixth generation warfare. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent about all of that. Point being that the way things are happening, the warfare that's taking place, and ultimately, of course, as believers, we know it's a spiritual war. We know that this is all part of a greater spiritual battle that's been taking place for generations. The tools, though, the tools to facilitate this level of cognitive and emotional and ultimately spiritual warfare is profound because the speed at which things can, again, get distributed are much faster now. So understanding that, the shift in the entire apparatus is palpable. Let me bring you this story from Axios.com here. Rothschild family sells 27% stake in The Economist to Canadian billionaire. Ooh, boy. Yay. The Rothschilds are selling a share of The Economist, everybody. And we've known for a long time that The Economist magazine or publication was a Rothschild publication. You know, they always put the people of the year, or not people, the, what is it? I don't know. They got different headlines. The Trump tarot cards cover was from The Economist. I believe it was 1989 Rising Phoenix digital currency cover was from The Economist. So they've been very much part of the sort of, I don't know, the process of doing this type of warfare. Real briefly here, I see Sir Darren in the chat here. Bro, can we buy it? Talking about the Rake analysis engine. So that's the part I have to work out, is that in order to run run an analysis, it costs money. And it's fine, you know, at the beginning, a few free, you know, rounds or whatever of generating a report. But if more and more people start using it, I have to charge people because it's going to, you know, it's going to cost money to actually run the engine. And I'm not stacked like that. I'm not loaded like that. Oh, The Economist magazine. Oh, he's talking about The Economist magazine. Oh, okay. Yeah. Hey, you know what? Maybe the Canarians, we can come together. We can do a raise and we can buy a piece of The Economist magazine from the Rothschilds, whatever they got left. Okay, let's find out more about this. It's behind the paywall. Oh, look at that. It's behind the paywall. It's okay. I can get behind it here. British philanthropist and investor Lynn Forrester de Rothschild has sold her family's entire 26.9% stake in The Economist to Canadian billionaire Stephen Smith. And his family holding company Axios has confirmed. Okay, how much are we talking here? Pearson, a British education publisher, sold the majority of its 50% stake in the publication in 2015 to Exor, the holding group of the wealthy Italian Agnelli family, for $469 million or $531 million. All right, we're talking into the billions or at least multiple millions of dollars here. Sir Darren, unless you got something stashed away that we're not aware of, I don't think we're going to be able to buy any part of The Economist magazine. But I like the way you're thinking. So there you go. I mean, I'm not going to break this down too much other than to suggest that there's a little bit of some changing of the hands. There's a little bit of a hot potato, maybe, black goo potato going on with World Elite. The Rothschild name has been tarnished for many years. We know that. We know that there was another report that a Rothschild estate was investigated for some Epstein-related things. So, maybe just for optics or maybe just for other reasons. I don't know. Like, what do you do when you're generationally sort of multi-billionaire type of family, or maybe even trillionaire? We don't even know how much money the Rothschild dynasty actually has, or what kind of assets they actually hold. I mean, a 27% stake in The Economist is probably nothing to them. They probably just look at The Economist magazine and think, well, we don't, whatever, like, it's not really useful for us anymore. We got other things going on, so I would imagine this is not much of a problem. A lot of people are framing this as some kind of victory, but I would argue that it says more about legacy media than it does about the Rothschilds, in my opinion. So, along those lines, and the rebuilding of the infrastructure, the White House OSTP, that's the Office of Science and Technology Policy, published some things or announced some things this morning. And they have a header here with a quote from President Donald Trump, quote, "Unquestioned and unchallenged global technological dominance." Spoken like a true technocrat there. Unquestioned and unchallenged global technical dominance is what they would like to achieve. And it was announced today by the assistant to the president and 13th director of the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. His name is Director Michael Kratsios. He says, "Today we welcome the first wave of extraordinary members to President Trump's Council of Advisors of Science and Technology, PCAST." Eerily close to podcast. Rooted in the tradition FDR began in 1933, PCAST unites America's brightest minds to advise the president on the most pressing national issues in science and technology. Under POTUS, PCAST will focus on the opportunities and challenges that the emerging technologies present to the American worker and how to best ensure the U.S. continues to lead in the golden age of innovation. There's the golden age again. And let me read the list of individuals who are part of this board. They announced a few more today. They include Mark Andreessen, Sergey Brin, Safra Katz, Michael Dell, Jacob DeWitt, Fred Irsham, Larry Ellison, David Friedberg, Jensen Huang, who just recently said that NVIDIA AI has achieved AGI, or artificial general intelligence, which is a great marketing tactic, John Martinez, Bob Mumgard, Lisa Su, and Mark Zuckerberg. There you go. There's your council of, what are they called? The It's President Trump's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology. Wonderful. So they are going to be shaping AI ethics, technological ethics, ensuring the golden age of American dominance in technology and science continues. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know about that. This sounds a lot like the scientific dictatorship, if you ask me. It sounds like the virtual panopticon. It sounds like the individuals in the central tower of the panopticon who have control and visual and surveillance and everything over the imprisoned citizens that surround the tower. That's what that sounds like to me, but what do I know? I'm just a guy on the internet screaming into the microphone. I know nothing. All right, so speaking of science and technology, let's discuss real quick the largest machine, the most expensive machine known to man today. CERN is in the news, and this kind of drove me crazy, and I looked into it a little bit deeper, and maybe I was the one that was a little, I don't know, maybe too pumped or angry or something, too aggressive about the situation. We'll see. But the story is that CERN yesterday, for the first time ever, they say, took some antimatter and drove it in a truck. Yes, it has happened, ladies and gentlemen. Antimatter has been moved in a truck. Now, there's footage of this coming out. I have the video here. It's about 1.5 minutes. Let me play a few seconds of it here. It's got the in there. And you know, it's interesting. There's something in there. It looks like, oh, is that the glowing? Is that the antimatter inside the thing? No, it's just a touch screen probably for the thing. And all right, truck is closing. Okay. Wonderful. All right. Looks like a normal truck you'd get at a U-Haul or something. Maybe like a 10-footer, maybe 15. Truck there. Okay. All right. The workers are all stepping outside. Everyone's got their hard hats on. Yeah, they're talking amongst each other in French, I believe. All right, get to it. Get to it. Yep. Wonderful. All right. There's the truck driver closing the truck. There's all the people getting ready, and this historic moment, everybody. The truck. Well, they're not showing the truck move. But all right, the truck moved, everybody. The truck carrying antimatter has moved officially. Okay, so everybody is talking about this on the timeline because allegedly, for the first time ever, they took 100, or some say 92, antiprotons and created this suspended portable thing. And they were able to put it in a truck and move it to another location, which is a big deal, according to many different outlets like this one. This is PBS News. Do you remember, or did you remember to pack the antimatter? CERN takes antiprotons for a short drive. And it says here, scientists in Geneva took some antiprotons out for a spin, a very delicate one, in a truck, in a never-tried-before test drive that has seemed deemed a success. Okay, already, you know me, I've been tracking CERN for a long time. We've been doing CERN Watch on Face Like the Sun since like 2014 or 2015 or something like that. It's been a long time. We've looked at headlines for years when it comes to CERN. What struck me was that there's been headlines for years about CERN moving stuff around, moving antimatter around. And I'm trying to pull up the headline because I shared it a few times in response here. And what I would have loved to have is somebody explain to me what's really going on. I did have to invoke Grok to get a little bit deeper context, and I had to look at the sourcing of Grok to ensure that the analysis was correct. But we have an article from February of 2018. The headline was CERN to transport antimatter in a van to study neutron stars. And it says here, researchers at CERN have gotten comfortable with antimatter. So comfortable, in fact, they're planning to load 1 billion antimatter particles into a van for a quick field trip. Okay. So this was 2018. They said they're going to put 1 billion antimatter particles in there. Well, in this report from 2026 yesterday, they took 92 antiprotons. Yeah, I don't know. What's hold on. I'm going to ask Grok, okay? I'm going to ask Grok because, he is going to tell us. Grok's going to tell us how big, let me just find out here. How much of a difference is 1 billion particles of antimatter against 92 antiprotons? Okay, let's see what Grok says. 1 billion particles of antimatter is vastly larger than 92 antiprotons. Oh, thanks, Grok. You did some math. 92 antiprotons, a tiny cloud that CERN's base experiment recently transported 1 billion antiprotons, roughly the scale of what some proposals aim to trap in portable devices for transport between labs. Okay, so they're even mentioning that this was planned. And so what I understand here is they've been planning this for a long time, but in prior iterations, it was protons, now antiprotons, that were being moved in vans as a test drive. And also, it was just plans, you see. They never actually did it until yesterday, which is almost like, why? What's the point here? People are freaking out on the timeline. I presented a clip from the movie Angels and Demons, which is part of the Da Vinci Code series with Tom Hanks in there and everything. And part of the movie, antimatter comes in contact with matter, and there's this massive explosion in the sky. And it's very dramatic. And so, of course, the fears are that these workers at CERN and, everybody involved, they're going to open a black hole, or they're going to create this new weapon that explodes when matter and antimatter touch. But really, I was pointing out, like, hey, this is, number one, is it really true that this is like the first time they've moved antimatter? Because here's the thing, there's also the specificity that needs to be cleared up here. So antimatter is sort of the umbrella term for all kinds of particles. Antiprotons are a specific kind of antimatter. Okay, so just to clear that up. So when they talk about antimatter, it's more the general phrase. Antiproton is a very specific type of antimatter. So when they say, oh, we moved antiprotons for the first time ever, it may be that they moved a different kind of antimatter in a van before, or something to that nature, because this story is not new. They've been talking about this for like 8, 9, 10 years of moving antimatter in a van. So I think what's really going on here is not so much the story of, hey, we did it, we moved antimatter, and here we are, we're so wonderful. Rather, this is really just a way to keep CERN in the news cycle, much like NASA needs to remain in the news cycle, because there's a lot of nation states involved with CERN, and it's a big project that billions of dollars get poured into. It's a big science experiment. It's really the largest toy in the world, the largest and most expensive toy in the world. And it's a way to keep public attention, to keep the public interest up with this topic, to allow the funding to continue to flow. They've got to show progress. They've got to show breakthroughs. They've got to show that something's happening, that we're moving in this direction. We're developing things. Why would we need to move antimatter in the first place? would be my question. Like, what's the point of that? Other than to invoke maybe, people that have been paying attention to the Da Vinci Code stories or the Angels and Demons film and stuff. And, oh, look, it's kind of like that, like the Jack Landale or Landon, whatever that character is, the Tom Hanks character. And it's like, oh, I feel like that guy, moving around antimatter particles. And look, I'm so risky because we're doing it in a van and everything. It's how are we supposed to know as a general public that that's really going on? We don't get to know that. But to me, when it's stuff like this is announced and everybody starts carrying it on the timeline, that's what's really going on. It's more about the PR of CERN, less about the actual breakthrough of the technology or something else. And look, CERN, again, I'm one of those weird, crazy people that looks at CERN headlines every day. I know it's a sad life. It's really quite lonely, to be honest with you. It's not fun most days. Okay, it's really boring. But here's why I feel this way about stories like this. I think it was a week ago, maybe last week. The CERN, they came out with a story that said, "Hey, we found a new particle. It's a theoretical particle that's been discussed for years theoretically, but we actually found it. We mathematically and scientifically can affirm the existence of this particle." Crickets. Nobody cared. And in fact, the deeper you look into it, even the headline that nobody cared about was very puffed up, because again, it was one of those things where it had been theorized for like 50 or 60 years for the existence of this particular particle. And then the math and the experiments and the data from all the collisions in the Large Hadron Collider showed that, yeah, it looks like that particle exists. Good job, mathematicians. You guys were on it. Does the particle do something? Like, I was trying to dig in, like, what will be the significance of this? Does it help with quantum computing? Does it change what does it do? Nothing. It doesn't do anything. We just found this particle and nobody cares. So, but nobody really gets pumped up for a story like that unless there's a little bit more of a hook to the story. So when you talk about a van, and it's got this, it's so funny. The van has this giant sign across the side that says "Antimatter in Motion." It's a PR thing when you have a banner. Antimatter in Motion. This is like a campaign truck. It's like the immortality bus that Zoltan Istvan took across the country while running for president with the Transhumanist Party. It's a big campaign, Antimatter in Motion, and it's got like a cool looking sort of lightsaber looking design on the side of it to make it look really cool. But really, it just kind of looks like something you can print up at your local sign maker and slap it on the side of a U-Haul truck and call it crazy, some kind of crazy it's a crazy breakthrough in science. And so that's kind of why when everyone freaks out about this, it's like, all right, come on, everybody, let's settle down a little bit. It doesn't mean anything. Is it going to be used to make bombs or to explode things? Or maybe the other side of it is they've had this type of stuff. They've had this capability for a long time. They're not going to tell the public, but in order to tell the public, let's make it a big rah-rah event and we'll put it in a truck and we'll label it Antimatter in Motion and we'll drive the truck down the street, and have the photo op and the video op and there you go. You get everybody on X screaming about it, right? So we're all waiting, for folks like me who've been looking at CERN and looking at portals and all this kind of stuff for a long time. I'm waiting for like the Stargate, I'm looking for the, the whole thing to open up and, oh, look at these creatures are coming through. The demiurge are here. Like, look at, that's kind of what people are expecting and hoping for, not a truck allegedly carrying antimatter moving across campus. Weak sauce is all I'll say. So if anybody freaks out about that, your friends and family, they bring it up and they're like, did you hear that? You could just say, yeah, okay. All right. Yeah. Maybe they took it through a drive-through. Maybe that's what they did. All right. I got one more story for you before I'm going to get out of here. How long have we been going? 2 hours, 10 minutes. Okay. This is perfect.
It's Newsome science, baby. Ha!
Okay. This This is a story, I suppose, of Gavin Newsom, governor of California. Made a post a couple days ago. It caught the attention of the internet. So good job, Gavin Newsom. He really knows how to stir up the crowd. He shared a photo, a split face photo. On one side is Gavin Newsom. And the other side is Patrick Bateman, who is the character. He's a character played by, the actor's name is escaping me right now. Somebody in the chat will tell you, and then I'll tell all of you listening. Patrick Bateman, he's the narcissistic serial killer from American Psycho. Remember him? Christian Bale. Thank you, chat. Christian Bale plays Patrick Bateman. And the caption that Gavin Newsom provided for this split image was this, quote, "For so many years, people have been saying that Patrick Bateman and I look alike. Now this pic has been going all over the place. What do you think?" What do you think people think, Gavin Newsom, and why are you embracing this? Now, again, on one hand, it's like this is actually a really smart move by Newsom in the sort of Trump role for 2028. If you kind of see the inverse effect going on, you think back to 2016, mainstream culture was Democrat, leftist, progressive. That was, the Obama effect. It was very much left. And here came Trump to break all the sacred cows, all the things that mattered to the left. He just shattered it all, right? Leaning into the whole thing. And Gavin Newsom is sort of doing the same thing for the Democrats, so to speak. Now the culture is more conservative. It is more right-leaning. One could argue it's more Republican. And so what do you do to stoke the anger of the conservative crowd? You lean into the memes that are made of you, or the things that are said about you, because it garners all kinds of interactions. It garners emotional responses from the conservatives, and it brings your name to the forefront of the conversation. Okay, and in that sense, it's actually brilliant that he did this, because he triggered millions of people doing this one post. So well done, Gavin Newsom, for leaning into it. But also, I mean, I would argue maybe that, he didn't really come up with this. He sort of accepted it from someone smarter that's behind his whole campaign. But the comparison, it really sparked all kinds of jokes. I mean, it comes from an already established meme of this before. But the mocking coming from pretty much everybody, but especially right-leaning conservatives, they were primarily mocking the self-reference, linking himself to a psychopath, which a lot of people are like, yeah, Gavin, we think you're a psychopath. Good job. Like you're self-aware of your psychopathic nature, apparently. In light of all the corruption stuff in California becoming exposed, in light of, the past few years, how Gavin Newsom has been perceived as a leader in California. We had the French Laundry situation, the billions of dollars lost in the stimulus stuff, the $1 billion he spent on masks for Californians made by a Chinese car company. Yeah, that's not fake, folks. That really happened. So this leaning into, hey, I'm a psychopath, kind of works, because it might, first of all, it was great for engagement, but also it might stoke even more support, like irrational support from his actual base, which is very small, I would imagine. So I don't know what this does for the greater presidency run in 2028, But I will say that he is trying to pull off what Trump did in 2016. At the very least, that is the case. And Sir Darren was talking about look maxing. Yeah, that's a whole different thing going on there. I think that is a thing happening of trying to, kind of, make fun of yourself, but also like, yeah, I'm so handsome, guys. I'm such a good looking guy. Yeah, like me and Christian Bale, we're just the same guy, basically. We're the same good looking guy. So yes, yeah, a little look maxing going on for sure. But in general, I think this is not Gavin Newsom wanting to do this. I think it was Gavin Newsom, somebody behind his persona, his team maybe, saying, hey, this is how Trump did it. Let's do it like Trump. Let's lean into the criticisms and the memes that are made of you. Don't shy away. That's how to do it. So, yeah. There you go. That's all I really had for you guys today. Let's see. Is there anything else that's pressing right now that needs to be addressed? I don't think so. But I appreciate everybody being here and hanging out and checking out the show. And again, we go a couple times a week, Mondays and Wednesdays. We go live. And, it'd be great to go live every day. I wish we could do that. We certainly appreciate all the supporters over the years who have stuck with us, all the different kinds of changes we've gone through with scheduling. But we also, I think a couple times a week is better for the purposes of this show, which is to break down world events and doing it through the lens of scripture and a biblical perspective, because it allows for different stories to build up, and then we can kind of address it all in a few hours instead of reaching for things every day. And so there's pros and cons for both, because when you let things simmer for a little bit, you can have a big story that pops off on a Thursday, but by the time we get to Monday, it's not what it was, or maybe it fizzles out into something else, or there's more development that you can get a little more perspective on based on not the initial reaction, but the second, third, fourth levels of reactions or developments of that story. And I think if you're a listener of somebody, a listener of this show, you're going to get much more value out of maybe, 15 minutes that will cover a story from that perspective than like sitting there tick for tack, everything that happens and reacting to it in the moment emotionally, usually. And, all of us are susceptible to it. There are plenty of posts on my X feed that that have a little bit more of an emotional reaction to certain news events or stories. But that's okay. That's sort of the initial reaction that I'm documenting. And then over time, you can curate it, or, we're not afraid to change our views on things. Although I would argue that our greater thesis on things have already been validated in a sense and continue to get validated based on the stories that come out. Because we do share a particular worldview here. And it's not just the worldview of the Bible being true and Jesus being the Savior. Those things are absolutely the core and foundation of this podcast. But beyond that, in terms of analysis of world events and news, we have a fairly unique perspective. We were inspired by people like No Agenda, but I think bringing in that spiritual aspect of it is just as important, and understanding that there's not fear to be presented here. The only fear we should have is of the Lord, a reverent type of fear, but also a true fear. There should be a genuine type of like, oh man, I want to clean up my life because I don't want to face God and have him point at me all the different faults that I have. And like, we all have faults. We all have different things. We've all screwed up in different ways, and we've had high moments, low moments in life. But as I kind of reflect on my 43 years of life here and thinking about how much time I got left, it's a reality check. It's like, okay, my children are getting a little older. Nobody's getting younger, actually, except maybe, some creepy vampire people. But our time is limited on this earth. And so I don't want to waste it just going with the trends of the world, or being swayed by this story or that story, or being scared and oh, we got to vote this way, otherwise you're a terrible person. And it's just a waste of time and energy. We need to focus on what's going to be helpful to people, and I think pointing people to Christ is the ultimate help that you can do for your neighbor. Which reminds me, there was a prayer request along those lines. Let me just pull it up. This individual said, and you know who you are, said they need prayers. I know Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself, but if I'm being honest, I've really struggled with that when it comes to my current neighbors. Listen, we all have, okay? I mean, I don't know what this person's talking about, if it's a literal neighbor who lives next door, or if they're talking about their spouse, or maybe someone in their family. But this person wants clarity, either to accept what I can't control or to take the right responsible steps forward, and that God would reveal his truth to him. So prayers for this individual who needs that. And yeah, we're all going through some tough times, whether it be financially, whether it be spiritually, feeling like you don't have a purpose or not belonging somewhere. But if you're a true believer in Christ, you know that you belong to a big family of believers. And we belong to a much grander place, and we belong to Christ. And those things are not for sale. Those things aren't something that gets validated necessarily by the world. And I think that's what the problem is with a lot of stuff. We want validation for certain things, or our beliefs, or something along those lines. And we're not always going to get that in this life or in this world. In fact, if the world is really validating some of those things, you might have to step back and question, like, wait a minute, what's going on? And that's been our thing. Like, we've been talking about so many different issues over the years on this podcast, whether it be, a lockdown that will shut the world down and demand some kind of vaccine to access certain places or buy and sell, or work or whatever, or it be the topic of transhumanism. Like, hey, science and technology is really pushing forward at a breakneck pace. This seems to have a apocalyptic future, or some kind of biblical level of significance to society and culture, and saying that was crazy 10 years ago, but now everybody sees it. But it's one of those things where it's like, okay, we were right, great, a little pat on the shoulder, but also kind of weird for us to be that right about something as obscure as that. And then looking ahead, what is there to consider? What's the next thing? What's the next conspiracy? I know we talked a little bit about the fatigue of pop culture, or politics and pop culture, and conspiracy theory and pop culture. It's definitely been hijacked. We know that. It's very interesting that a lot of ex-CIA and former CIA guys are being quoted on all kinds of shows, all kinds of platforms, whether it is directly a host of a podcast that says they were ex-CIA or formerly CIA, or, formerly worked with intelligence, or if there's somebody that is less known, but all of a sudden they're on a more popular or semi-popular podcast making claims about, there's a lot more stuff in the Epstein files that's not out there, and there's a lot more stuff about this or that or whatever. Like, why are all those conspiracy theories being consolidated into a narrative out there in the alt media world? Got to question that. It's not easy to answer, and maybe there's no clarity on it right now, but rest assured, someday there will be clarity. And so we got to always be watchful. As a watchman, our jobs as watchmen is to look at the horizon, see what's coming. And that's what we did. That's all we did 10, 15 years ago when we started this show, and throughout the last 15 years. We simply reported on what we were seeing coming over the horizon. And so, of course, when it gets to the gates, it's like, yes, we've been saying that we saw it coming on the horizon, and here it is in our gates, or in our territory, or whatever. And I think a lot of people right now are focused on those things that did come over the horizon in our midst, and they're not looking up at the horizon anymore. But that's one thing that we will do on this show, on this podcast. We will continue to look at the horizon. see what's coming. We'll report it. We will always try to be grounded and objective about what it is. It's hard to see now. We're in kind of this moment of the fog of war concept where we don't really know what's happening specifically, like in terms of what's real anymore. I think that's part of the 6th generation warfare aspect of this, because we can't trust video, because we can't trust any news headline or anything anymore. There's a skepticism there, and that's kind of useful for the social engineers, because if there is pure compliance, it's useful to them. But also, if there's a majority skepticism, you can roll out certain things that are nefarious, but because the condition of the population is skepticism, oh, no one's going to believe it anyway, or no, people are going to miss it because they're paying attention to this over here, or they're carried away with the alien story, or they're focused on the Epstein story, whatever it might be. They're rolling out stuff that we're going to find out about 5, 10, 15 years from now. And it's our job to continue to sort of report those things. And as a community, not just us, not just me, not just Basil, as a community of people, of believers, we're set apart from this world to begin with. And we need to continue to do that and demonstrate that. And that's something that we are proud to be doing, and we are blessed to be doing. Because it's only in this time in 2026 as followers of Jesus Christ that we can do this type of thing. And it's probably more entertaining, probably frying our dopamine in our brain, because we're so stimulated by all these different things every day. But compared to most of history, where you're actually staring at a horizon where 99% of the time nothing happens, like, we're blessed that things are happening every day. I can't imagine being a watchman like 200 or whatever, 1,000, 2,000 years ago, or you're sitting up there and like, oh, we saw a rabbit today. We saw some lizards over there, whatever, like, it would be much more boring. I mean, of course, it'd be exciting when they see the horsemen come and the army fleet from Persia show up or something like that. But in general, it's probably a pretty boring job. And so we can at least say that we live in a time that is not boring, but also that is a time where we are in a time where we are susceptible to distractions much more than back in the day. So all that being said, just want to say thank you to all the producers. Again, we are value for value, which means we don't take money, support from corporations, commies, cartels, any kind of advertisers, any kind of lobbying group, or any of those things. And right now I'm seeing a lot of back and forth with some independent media talking about, and I published this article about we're all being turned into agents of some kind in this new decentralized intelligence agency world, where not only are ex-CIA people all out there on podcasts talking about things, but they have implored talking heads. Anybody can participate in that, Candace Owens being a prime example of like, hey, she started pushing this narrative about who actually killed Charlie Kirk. And now there's counter narratives happening now where it's like, well, it looks like this one individual ex-CIA was feeding Candace Owens this information. And we seem to have found monetary connections to foreign agency, which of course that whole narrative is being pushed by another foreign agency. And so again, the fog of war, right? This is all kind of craziness going on, and it's hard to tell. But one way you can tell is the financial or economic side of things, where we openly say we're value for value. We don't do advertising. We don't take all the lobbyist money. We don't do that, which has kept us under the radar from a lot of attention, positive and negative attention, which is okay by me. I think it's a blessing. And so we are able to continue on doing this and not worry too much about becoming the story when it comes to a lot of the world events. It's a best practices of journalism, right? Report the story, don't become the story. And right now you look at the whole Candace, Tucker, all that, they've become the story. They're part of the op. It's a big reality show. I'm not saying what they're saying isn't true, but they have become part of the reality show that everybody's watching. And now there's analysis of what Candace said versus what Laura Loomer's saying, and what this person's saying, what that person. It's a reality show. It's just it doesn't help anybody. It's just narrative versus narrative, and ultimately, Nick Fuentes or whoever. Again, to me, that stuff is like really low hanging fruit. That stuff is not helpful for anybody. And I think what we do here is much more fruitful and much more positive for your well-being. And I think a lot of people agree with that. And so we appreciate those who agree with sentiments like that or something to that effect, and support the show with your time, talent, treasure. Again, you can go to canarycry.support to learn a lot more about that. And let's see. Oh, you know what? I need to thank Cage Rattler Coffee, because today's show definitely wouldn't have been possible without my coffee. I have it in this little gonzo cup here. It's kind of cold now, but still good. You know, that's the thing with coffee. With Cage Rattler Coffee is, you know, you can pour yourself a nice glass. It might get a little cold, but hey, you can still drink it afterwards. It still tastes good. So go do that. It's one way to support the show. A piece of the purchase of the Cage Rattler Coffee goes to supporting this show. And so this is not a product that we made. This is a product that a producer made that, you know, we allowed for the sort of branding and whatnot. And that's Sir Ike. And we appreciate Sir Ike for doing that, and help out Sir Ike. You know, this helps Sir Ike a little bit. And Sir Ike, this is his way of helping us. I mean, he helps us in multiple ways. I mean, he's almost he's as important to the Canary Cry operation as Basil and I, for sure. So go support him, go support the show, go to CageRattlerCoffee.com and get yourself some brew. It's delicious.
Cage Rattler Coffee, where value for value never tasted so good.
All right. Also, I didn't do text messages today. It's more of a Basil thing, but do text us the word canary at 877-740-3226, and we will text you when a show is going live. Or maybe sometimes, like very occasionally, we will send out a text saying like, hey, no show today because, you know, we're all sick or something like that. So if there's no show, or if there is a show, we will send out a text. We're not sharing that list. We're not selling that list to anybody. We are we're keeping it under the hood there and maintaining your privacy, so you can you know, just ensure that we're not gonna do that. Which is too bad that a lot of different, you know, people that take your text number or your phone number or whatever, that they will sell that to other people for money. I mean, it's just so troubling. Anyway, we don't do that here at Canary Cry. We keep that safe and private for you the best we can. Also wanted to thank the people coming in with talent. Oh, we did have a piece of art. I'm going to save that for Monday. It was from Ianon. Ianon, thank you for the art. We will save it for Monday because I think it'll be fun to do it with Basil. So appreciate you for sending that in. Also, you can support the show with your talent. That's all kinds of administrative stuff going on in the background. One of the things you can do is help us with timestamps.
Timestamp, it's hard work. Timestamp.
It is hard work. And Jade Bouncerson was the one who did the timestamps for episode number 925. Thank you, Jade Bouncerson, for your commitment and loyalty to the show. It's been fantastic. A lot of these producers coming in with Time, Talent, Treasure are long-time producers of the show. And really, it's a huge blessing to have this little team of producers helping the show, because we really couldn't. I mean, the show would just be such a mess without some of these people. So thank you to all who participate in that regard. Thank you to Clank and Jam. And I know I'm missing people. I feel terrible. I don't want to miss anybody, but I know I'm missing some folks who help us out with their time as well. Go to canarycry.party. I'll give you all the links to many different things that we do, whether it's the podcast, whether it's our X accounts, or also different communities that we have. We have a Discord. We have a Telegram group. So find all those things at canarycry.party. Oh, the solo shows, it's a catch-22 because it's like, okay, I get to kind of just do my thing on a solo show, but I have to talk for 2.5 hours straight. And I think I have to lead a couple. Yeah, I got to get going because I got to lead a couple songs in a Lent service tonight, a couple worship songs. I'm going to be exhausted. Okay, so going to get going here. Tell your friends and family that tomorrow is Heaven's Gates Mass Suicide UFO Cult Awareness Day, which is unofficial, but let's just call it that. Let's see, 29 years since the Heaven's Gate mass suicide that occurred. Oh, man, that's so crazy, crazy times. And then, of course, this Saturday is Respect Your Cat Day. Maybe the cats put a trap so Basil will cut his foot open or trip on something or whatever. They were jealous. The cats were jealous that Basil was spending too much time with the emus. And like big brothers do, they get jealous. You know how it goes. You know the story. Genesis 4. Go read it. Cain and Abel. Guess what? Older brother, a little jealous of the younger one, right? Yeah, you know what happens. Maybe that's what was going on because it's National Respect Your Cat Day on Saturday. He's like, hey, it's Cat Day. What are we going to do this weekend? He looks out, and all the cats see is Basil playing with the emus, and they're like, those emus. And then they set a trap, and it didn't hurt the emus. It ended up hurting Basil. But I'm sure the cats are happy. It's like, now you must lay here and give me your attention. Now you cannot go outside with the emus. I don't know why the cats have that evil voice, but okay, there you go. That's something going on. We got Palm Sunday on Sunday, and then next Monday's show we will celebrate Klaus Schwab's birthday. That'll be the next episode 927. Be there for that. And what else? Share the show, everybody. Share the show with friends, families, pets, all the above. Just go do it. Around here, we call it rattling cages. You just got to walk right up to him, grab him by the cage, and then shake him.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages.
Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
Human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
That's right. Just ask Noah. This is usually when I have some final words, but I think I've said everything I need to say today. Thank you for listening, everybody. Thank you for listening to the ramblings of the Asian provocateur. I'll see you guys next time. Have a blessed weekend. Hopefully Basil will be able to do Clubhouse tomorrow. So be praying that his feet, or his foot, I guess, heals miraculously so he can bring that to you guys tomorrow. But until then, think outside the cage.
I'll keep you warm and safe in my people's zoo.
This is the United States of America, for God's sake.
It will kill.
Do not come back, you Nazi psychopaths. Armageddon's on the way.
They're going to probably try and rattle her cage a little bit more.
Remember, reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Buy gold. Buy!
I want to shake things up, shake things up. I want to shake things up, shake things up. Leave the bird alone. I want to stir up some controversy. I want to rattle a few cages. I want to rattle a few cages. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. A crusader for the little guy. Little guy. Little guy. Well, we'll see about about that?
Whatever, Illuminati.
I've ordered more pills than anyone in the world.
Value for value. We take no money from corporations, commies, or cartels.
Bye.
I'm out of here. Bye.